In a world filled with challenges and opportunities, it's not just about having big dreams, it's about having the right approach to turn those dreams into reality. Whether you're navigating the competitive landscape of business or seeking personal growth, it's all about the approach.
And I want to welcome everybody to our first episode of The Approach. I am Dr. Davis McAllister. And the reason that we call it The Approach is my background. I was an interrogator and worked in counterintelligence, and everything about my job was about the approach, how you approached an individual to get information or how we approach the mission. And so what I wanted to do is I wanted to bring on business professionals, and let's talk about how their different approaches affect their success in business. So the first I want to bring up is my co-host, Regina Bergman. She's an international best-selling author, a speaker, and a profit acceleration and exit strategy specialist. And she also has her own LinkedIn Live show called Collaboration Conversations. Let's welcome Regina.
Hello, Davis. Great to be here.
I'm glad to have you. Thank you. So anything else you want to tell us about you before we bring your guests on?
Oh, yeah. So I guess a little background would be good. So I think I've been an entrepreneur my entire life, as long as I can remember. I've owned multiple businesses and seen businesses fail. I always say my greatest success was my greatest failure. That was a 12 and a half year staffing firm that I had. That was about a $5 million company that went out of business overnight due to the financial crash of 2008.
Wow.
That drives in part what I do today. I don't want other business owners going through what I went through. And so I work to help them create businesses that are highly profitable and can run without them so that they have options when they are ready to sell, whatever the circumstances are that create that positioning of being ready to sell.
Absolutely. But 2008 was a tremendous time I know it affected me in a way and ended up forcing me to have to pivot and make a change in direction, and a lot of other people that I know as well. So I'm so glad and thankful that you are out there trying to help folks keep that from happening to them again. And sorry that you had to go through that. But I firmly believe everything happens for a reason and a purpose. And I truly believe you're serving your purpose. So
I agree. I've always felt that my purpose in life was to help others achieve their full potential.
Absolutely.
And so I get to do that every day.
Awesome. All right. So let's do this. Let's go ahead and bring your guests up and have you introduce your guests.
All right. Well, I am going to start with Michael James. Michael and I have known each other for a while now. It's probably 2 or 3 years anyway that we've been doing things together. And I'm a huge fan of his and the work that he does. He is the owner of Noggin Finance. He helps businesses with their financing needs. Mm-hmm. He has a huge network around the world. He is involved in business and community development, and I am proud to call him my friend and business associate.
Absolutely. Michael, you want to say hi? Anything else you want to add?
Yeah, I really appreciate being a guest and the opportunity to speak and be a part of this episode 1 and help engage and educate the community. As Regina said, we've worked for many years together, and I started a marketing agency originally about 12 years ago and have leveraged that into another startup, which was a CRM that Regina actually got to see and be a part of. I literally took the concept out of my mind, reverse engineered it and built it, executed on it. And now with my finance company, it's literally leveraging the relationships, building trust, building these community and global communities of relationships and referrals. And it's been a lot of fun to be this age and be instrumental in helping business owners get access to capital. So
that's awesome.
Appreciate the opportunity today. It'll be fun.
Yeah, thank you, and welcome to the show.
Thank you, Dr. Davis.
All right, let's go ahead and bring Kian.
Hey, y'all.
Hi, Kian. Well, let me tell you a little bit about Kian. I've not known Kian as long as I've known Michael, but we've known each other for a while now. How do I want to say this? I have been involved in coaching him, and now I'm asking him for coaching. So it is a give and take relationship. And Kian is a CFO consultant. He's a speaker, a cyber risk specialist, a Christian entrepreneur. And I am also pleased to call him a friend as well.
That's so kind. Thank you, Regina. I appreciate that. Am I allowed to carry on? Is that all right? Do you mind? You know, you can probably tell by the accent, I'm from Deep East Texas. Originally, I'm an Englishman. I moved here to San Antonio, Texas in July last year. I am a CFO consultant. I'm an accountant through and through. I've been an accountant now for way over 20 years. I love numbers. I love doing business driven by numbers. And I just love equipping and empowering business owners to thrive and exponential growth and achieve their dreams.
That's great. Thank you. And welcome to the show.
I appreciate it so much. What a privilege to be here with you today, Doc. Thank you.
All right. Up next, we have Asha.
Miss Asha. Hi, Asha. Great to see you. Asha and I have known each other for a while now as well. And she is also a coach. She is CEO and executive mentor and a virtual corporate trainer. She's brilliant, a lover. She's awesome.
And that's enough. Thank you so much, Queen Regina, Your Majesty. I'm so honored to always be at your presence and everyone else's. It's such a pleasure to join today at this first episode. And after 17 years plus, I'll have to say, being in business as a business owner, first and foremost, and then helping my clients of multiple 6, 7, 8 figures to build, scale, and sell their businesses. I have to say it became my passion and hobby to literally increase and maximize their profits, sales, and performance in leadership at any economy. So the bigger challenge, the bigger reward. I love it. Bring it on. Thank you for having me today.
Thank you for coming on, Asha. Now, if I understand you're on vacation right now.
Can't you tell? But I
did get the memo, though, about Red. She got the memo.
Oh, as always. I have some backup, too.
All right. Well, let's bring on your last, but certainly not least, your last guest here.
Hi, Mike.
So, hi, go ahead. Say everything you know.
All right.
I can't wait to hear it.
Well, and I regret to say that I've only known Mike for about 5 minutes. However, here's what I know about him. He can pitch your business better than you can. So you can learn from Mike how to build your business pitch from the ground up. And his title there, Fix Your Pitch. And so many business owners struggle with that. So Mike, that's a great service that you bring to folks. Welcome, Mike.
Thank you. I came into this thinking it was a forensics accounting mastermind. So I'm really happy to hear that it's a little more complex than that. The other thing I noticed, Dr. McAllister, is I heard what your past life was, and my first inclination was to ask you if you used that sword in your former practices.
No, we had pliers and water and no.
That's not the response I thought I'd get from you. I love it.
Well, it's funny because one of the talks that I do, I get up and they want me to elaborate a little bit more on the interrogation background, and I have them put a jug of water behind the podium, and I'll pull it out.
I love it. Yeah, as Regina said, my job is fun. I get to help every business with the question every one of them gets asked: what do you do? And it's a remarkably hard thing to answer when it's your business, because you know everything. You know 100% about what you do. The thing is, your audience only cares about a fraction of that. And trying to find that fraction is hard. So think of an author writing a book. Now it comes time to write the sales pitch, the blurb. And they can't do it because every word's important to them. What they need is an outside perspective. They give the book to someone else to read. That person can write the blurb in 10 minutes because they see what the audience sees. So that's my job, is to walk in the audience's shoes for my clients. And I can wear a lot of different pairs of shoes, but give them one way to talk about, one way to communicate what they do that's clear, it's simple, and it's consistent. It's everywhere, but there's only one way that your audience is going to understand it right. And that's what I help you find.
That's outstanding. And welcome to the show, by the way.
Thank you very much. Congratulations.
So the first question that I want to throw out is, this is the approach. So let's talk about some different approaches. Everybody's got we got a little bit of crossover and as far as what you do and with some differences in there. So when I talk about approaches, it's specific things. And what I want you to think about and maybe elaborate on is, in your particular field, what is something that you feel requires a specific approach that's a little bit different than any other field? I want to start off with an easy one for the first question.
Everybody agree with him? That's an easy one. I'll go first, and then y'all can help me out.
Yeah, we got you back, Regina.
One of the things that happens in coaching that one of the things I think is really important in coaching is that we must diagnose before we can prescribe. We need to get to know that business well enough that we can be like the doctor. You don't go into a doctor's office and he just writes you a prescription without finding out the depth of what's going on with you, right? Or at least if he does, you want to find another doctor. So, we need to come at it with that diagnostic perspective. So one of the things in my approach is that I use a proprietary tool that some of the folks on this panel are familiar with as well, that is allows me to dive deep into their company and in a multitude of areas to do that diagnosis, so that I can then make that prescription for what we need to do and in what order, and to get them where they want to go.
Mm-hmm.
I'd be happy to speak.
Yeah, everybody just jump in.
Yeah. A big aspect of what I do is it really is getting us out of our own heads, and showing them that outside perspective. But everything starts with one concept. How do you connect to your audience based on their motivation, not their need state? If I were to ask all of you, do you have the time? I'm not asking because I'm curious. It's because maybe I have another meeting, I have to go somewhere. The motivation for why I need the time's the need state. And getting people attached to the importance of that is remarkably hard, because they're thinking solutions and services. So what I do is I align them with one idea that they can't get rid of once it's in there. I learned that from the movie Inception with Leo DiCaprio, where the whole concept is to put an idea in someone's head because it's like a virus without a cure. If I said to all of you, don't think of elephants, what are you immediately thinking of, right? So it's that kind of thinking that grabs an audience's attention and connects them. That is the most important part of my approach, is finding that connective tissue.
Mm.
I suppose from my perspective, the approach would be, I'm always very keen that there's two words that come to mind: partnership and collaboration. I'm a hybrid consultant. I'm a consultant primarily, but I like to move into coaching in the right environment. But to do any of these things, it takes that partnership. It takes that the person that I'm working with, building up that trust. They go, I'm going to give you access to the crown jewels of my business, and I'm willing to share this with you because we now have that partnership. We have that dialogue. We have that trust. And then you can, with that partnership, then that collaboration becomes immensely powerful. and they're then making changes in their business and cultures changing and so forth, you're really trusted, and you're in that business really as that partner. And I find that that's an approach that works for me. It's an approach that took a long time to get to this point because I made so many mistakes in the past, and I certainly learned it the hard way. And I like how Michael's sitting there nodding away as well. So perhaps you've had a similar experience, Michael.
I'll go next.
Oh, go ahead, Asha.
So, I think that every business is actually, or approach to business is science and art together. And why do I think so? Because, I was raised by my mom, who is still professor of medicine, and my father, who is engineer. So you can imagine, and me as a typical artist, I had to marry those two things. So before even I started in business, playing with that, I was an attorney for many years. And right there, I really got interested in neuroscience. Even I really did not like medicine or biology or anything like that. Neuroscience was my passion. And right from there, neuroleadership became like a leading theme in my approach with businesses. So one of the most unique and important parts that we always dive in is, what are my clients' superpowers that are tied to their passion, how they can help in the most efficient way their clients find a solution that will maximize the result. Because only then we found that no matter what's happening, what type of economical recession or roadblocks they are showing up on their way, they will be always resilient, because their superpower will help them, allow them to be so resourceful like no one else around them.
That's great.
Well said.
Thank you.
Wow.
Michael,
That's the beginning.
So I'm gonna wrap this all up in a napkin here. So Asha, with what you just said, the science and the art aspect, right?
Yeah.
And Kian, it's listening, knowing the customer, creating solutions, finding what doesn't work as well as what does. Typically what doesn't work is what gets people on the best tracks moving forward. And that's where the internal operations, the external sales, and growth start happening when they see that. How I've utilized my network, as Regina the Queen, as an example, she's quite the data analyst. And for my customers, for finance, we need to know if they're bankable, if they're fundable. Do they have the profit? Do they have liabilities? And what does that look like in 6 months, 2 years, and 5 years? Then you take Mike Verrett, the guy with the brand, the execution of the brand, what it does to the community, what it does for the employees, what it does for the customers out in the world. He's able to extend that in a way and explain it in a value proposition and a needs analysis. So the customer goes, ooh, I want that. I need that. And then they create a timeline based on their needs. I need that in 6 months or 3 weeks, or I need it today. And that's where Mike and then Regina, this whole kind of economy of all of our services coming together, it's kind of how we analyze the customer and execute for them on behalf of our network and our services. So hope that painted a nice little picture in the scientific realm.
That's great. And I love how you incorporated everybody else into it as well. So
I think an important part of business in general is the business itself is the science. Mm-hmm. And the people who run it are the art, meaning it's black and white. It's, top line, bottom line for the business, and there's mechanisms that run in place. But you have somebody who comes in and is having a bad day, and all of a sudden that dynamic changes. And that's the art of the people involved. They need to be bought into the vision too. I think, Michael, you'd probably agree with this. There's a lot of operational, mechanical pieces to a business. But ultimately, if you're communicating to them about why they need you or why they should buy, it comes down to seeing it more from their perspective, which is it can be tough at times.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I love it, and I agree because we have to look at business as one holistic body, right? That, our operational system, our brain will send all the neutrons to all the right places. So we can create the value proposition. We can serve our clients at the highest level, right? In very resourceful way. That's the art coming in. So we can create loyal, amazing clientele, brands, but also employees that create our reputation and will justify the life value of a business and a client and everything, how we help them in whatever solution we provide for them.
And that brings me to my next question, because within business, I've heard it said that, and I've seen it in different industries that I've worked in, whether it's been business or education or, in the healthcare field, the success of a business depends on its leadership. And so what I want to know is, in your business or in the people that you have worked with, what is your approach as far as leadership? Because if you don't necessarily have employees, you're having to lead your clients into buying into what you have to offer, and what you can do for them. So talk about your approaches where that's concerned.
Mm-hmm.
The way I tend to approach this stuff starts from the idea that everybody has a vision for their business. And when a vision is a straight line, it's like an Arizona highway, 10 miles, you can see the horizon, right?
You should see my vision board.
Yeah.
Maybe he already did.
But here's the key. That straight line is like, here's me, here's my vision, right? The second you take the first step towards that vision, it's like a windy road at night in Vermont. It's a totally different experience. So what they need to be able to do is they want a parabolic effect to get to their vision. And they've got to set the stepping stones along the way to get to that effect. It's not about, boom, I can go right there. It's about, okay, take this step, this step, this step. And if you know the right steps to take, it is the perfect way to delegate. It's the perfect way to collaborate and have people marching as one.
Well said.
Okay, that's very well said.
Let me expand on that for 2 seconds. So in that vein, as I get applications, customers coming to us looking for funding, let's just say 80% typically have not applied for business funding or a loan previous. They think they're going to get a check overnight. Realistically, take some weeks to fill out the paperwork to get to the door to get the check overnight. And that's where utilizing these people as service providers, professional, and creating a cadence, a timeline of realistic expectations. You're going to fill out the paperwork here. You're going to talk to the lender here. You're going to get a check here. Then you're going to talk to Regina and Mike Verrett over here. Mm-hmm. And then Keon's going to have to come into that. And then Ash is going to have to come into that. Mm-hmm. And you can see kind of a trajectory. But a lot of people think it's tomorrow, it's today, I'm in a week. And sometimes by installing the realistic expectations, the other service providers to get to the execution of, I want the goal, the check, the whatever, the new client, the new location, the new whatever, and make that part of that timeline. So it's people with AI, this is a situation like, I want it now. I'm going to type in a sentence and I get my whole paper, my whole book read, my whole video AI summation for me. So.
Just a quick interjection on that. The best trick I've ever figured out how to use on ChatGPT is after I tell it to write something for me, I say, now write it for a 9-year-old. works so well. It's uncanny how good it is.
What is the country's reading level? It's 9-year-olds. It's
Yep.
4th grade.
Wow.
You nailed it, Mike.
Hey, it's just above your military schools, because your military schools are designed to be taught on an 8th grade or 8-year-old level. So
Thank
Yeah.
goodness.
Wow.
They're
You know-
twice as smart as the average American then.
Think
4th
about
grade,
this,
8th grade.
though. Think about this, though. When you're 25, your brain is full.
Mhm.
So you can only take in what you're willing to let go, right?
Yeah.
And if you can program one way to see things, everybody can follow along, whether it's the military or what I'm talking about, getting people to understand what I do. And the simplicity is what's key. Think about this. What if I were to talk to all of you and think in my business way, but start saying things like, Dr. McAllister, I love the Sword and Shield. That's amazing. Now you got to tell me, did you acquire those via an e-commerce platform? I'd say, did you get it online?
yeah.
Right? That's the kind of stuff that needs to go. And that's exactly the kind of stuff that goes away when you start thinking about talking to a 9-year-old.
Mhm. That's something that I've seen. I go to different type of conferences. I speak, on leadership, but I also work on some things on the healthcare side, and I'll hear people get up and talk, and they're talking so technical and so above everybody in the audience's head that I'm just sitting there looking around, and you're watching eyes glaze over. There's a little bit of drool coming out of the corner of their mouth, and instead of saying, the KISS principle, keep it simple.
I go by less is more, but both words are spelled with the last letter missing. LES is MOR. Like, you don't need all that stuff. It's
Yeah.
like it's like if you were to ask the watchmaker for the time, you're not going to get the time. You're going to get why it's that time and how it's that time.
Yeah.
And that's the wrong stuff you need to know. But that's because we get immersed in what we do know. And there's no business without show business. We are in a role. We're playing a role, whether we want to be or not. It's not how we think in the outside world. So that idea of getting it to a 9-year-old level is simply to take what you do and translate it to the outside world, to your audience.
So I'm finding this is interesting. There's two elements here. One of the reasons why I do cyber risk work, and it sounds a little bit quirky alongside being a CFO, but I've been working with C-suite for so long. I found that where I used to work in the Channel Islands off the coast of France it was a regulated environment. A lot of C-suite needed to understand risk exposures. But whenever they would talk to people about cyber, it would be cybersecurity people just talking to them in jargon, and it went straight over their heads. And so the technical guys would be like, I need this latest widget, I need that latest thing. And they would get bamboozled. And invariably they'd be signing requests for payment that they didn't really understand what on earth they were doing. Now I can go in and I can talk from a risk perspective, talk it to them in their language, being an ex-CFO, so being ex-C-suite, and go, okay, let's understand this from three perspectives: reputation, money, and information. Do you want to ruin any of those things in your business? No? Fantastic. Then we need to take this approach. And you just break it down nice and simple. Now, the other flip side here is one of the things I've seen here in the US since I've been here, and I apologize for any sweeping generalization here, is the number of your business owners, they're brilliant at selling maybe the thing that they dreamt of selling when they started that business, but they're not very good at leading a business. They're not very good at actually managing the business. They don't understand what it is to run a business. They don't understand business finances. They don't understand strategy, and they're out of their depth. And I find that a real shame, but at the same time, it's a wonderful opportunity. But the leadership skills aren't there because they've never been taught in them, never been trained in it. But that's just my simple English perception. And I apologize if it's a sweeping generalization.
No,
It's true,
spot
though.
on.
It's pretty true.
It's spot on. Yeah.
So with that concept in mind, because you alluded to your approach is to gain trust, and having your approach to gain trust. So would you say that those individuals that don't necessarily have that knowledge base? Is it easier to gain their trust, or do you feel like it's more difficult to gain their trust?
I don't. I think from my perspective, Doc, I've been very fortunate in the fact that I seem, because I have this English accent, people trust me easier here in the US.
Ooh, a foreigner. He's bringing
You automatically sound
Play
smarter.
to your strengths.
People keep telling me it's a USP, so work it. So I'm working it. So yeah, I'm leveraging the English accent, and I find that when I talk, I can talk with credibility, because a bit like Asher and Michael, Mike, Regina, we come into this today with years and years of experience. And you talk on the experience. I understand what you're going through because I've been there. And they go, oh, you get my perspective. Yeah, I get your perspective. And I can help to get you out of that position and to a higher plane by taking this course of action. And immediately people go, I like this.
Well said.
Yep. It adds that validation. The one thing I would say in what you were just talking about is the first thing I would want to do. Think of your about me section should go insight, solution, why I'm qualified to provide that solution. You would look like a mind reader if you started with, let me guess, this is what you're going through and why it feels that way. And you'd love this solution. Well, guess why? Guess why I'm qualified to do it. That puts it on their terms. If you lead with you, that's on your terms.
No, very good. Very good point.
Mm-hmm.
Now, by the way, I fall for the accent all the time, and my left brain is in Scarborough, in the UK.
I'm sorry to hear that.
But if you have that accent, you automatically get 30 points added onto your IQ or perceived IQ.
Well, at least I'm to 40 now, so that's great.
Yeah. Okay, because when they hear mine and they actually see me, they deduct about 50. So
Not this guy. I start thinking I want ribs.
yeah.
To extend off of what Kian said, I've been experiencing something very unique for my last 6 years as I've been building this finance network. So imagine being a 32-year-old that gets a commercial finance concept implanted in his brain, and he has to build this thing or else it's going to drive him nuts every night. It's a problem. It's like the TV that doesn't go off. My brain stays on. The little noggin keeps percolating.
That's
So-
the virus without a cure, Michael.
The virus without
It's
a
a big
cure.
virus. It's a mind containing.
Yeah.
As I was shopping and building this idea at that age, it ruffled some feathers. Some people said, oh, this kid's trying to do this. He's doing it this way. He's making it automated. He's maybe taking my job. He's,
Snap.
maybe taking my customers that pay me too. Oops. I had to soft shop this for 6 years. Now when I make the phone call, now they get it. All the partners that work with me and catch my deals, they get it because they
So if
want
I
to.
were-
They want to receive. They want to win.
Yes.
They want to be in that community engagement.
So by this logic, if I were 20 years younger and had a British accent, I could not lose.
Kian, you should be my sales director. We would win together.
All right.
Michael, I'm looking forward to working with you, my friend.
I've got a salary waiting.
Awesome.
Now, with Asha having an attorney background, I want to hear her approach to.
Yeah, none of us going to argue with her.
Yeah.
She'll make us pay for it.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Billable hours, my dear. You already start 3 hours ago, since I'm on vacation.
All my prep work.
Yep. Good. So you know what? I actually have a very also unique experience because I tend to work with absolutely brilliant leaders of corporations, and I train their sales teams and their executive teams as well. And I'm noticing something absolutely amazing. that, and again, I'm not going to generalize, because either is US, Canada, UK, you know, whatever country out there, if the leader is extremely strong, what does it mean? Is wise, savvy. And I do not mean it in educational background, because one of the top amazing, strong leaders I have amazing pleasure to work with that have multiple 8-figure businesses already in a very young age. They have maybe barely high school, they dropped out, but they very humble. They have a hunger for learning. They're so detailed oriented. And what they do, they have a talent for looking for brilliant people. Because do you guys remember my goodness, not Roberto, I forgot his name right now. Quadrant, right? So the sole practitioners, and then business owners, and then investors, right? And there were the employees on the other side. So a lot of leaders that don't really go far, and maybe with little teams, they still stuck in the sole proprietary quadrant. But the real business owners, those are the people that love systems, they love talents, and they are there to inspire, to empower, to let others shine their light, create leaders. That's how the business is built.
Mm-hmm.
Not being the know-it-all, you know, in the business. Because then what can you do? You really leave your ship to your captains, and you go and create another and another. But then you create multiple income streams, right? That are passive. Just a little note.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen so many organizations, and unfortunately have worked in several organizations where, you know, the leadership is so concerned about somebody outshining them, or, you know, making them look bad, or I've even been told at one point in time that I couldn't be in the same room with somebody because that other individual, because of their status, had to be the bigger dog in the room.
Wow.
Yeah.
You know what? It's such
That's a compliment.
I
take that as a compliment.
But it's such
Your
a
presence.
scarcity. Yeah, it's scarcity mentality. You know,
Yeah.
it's scarcity mentality won't take anyone far, but will destroy everyone around it, right?
Yeah.
And either the business or this, so to speak, leader.
Yeah.
I
So
think
talk about leadership.
I'm sorry. I was going to say, I think part of that issue, I worked at Hasbro Toys for 7 years. Well, I was in the building for 13 years. That's a Fortune 500 manufacturing company, but it is full. I mean, swamped with MBAs, master's degrees, who would eat their young to climb the corporate ladder. And that's how they're programmed, going and getting their MBA. I mean, that's why they're doing it. So you get this unbelievable competition that comes out of it. Actually, I saw it every single day, specifically with 3 people who were at each other's throats, but all at the VP level. One of them got promoted, the other 2 quit. They went to another company. Yeah, I mean, it just doesn't make sense to me. But again, it goes back to that idea of playing a role in business. None of those people are going home and they're like, all right, kids, I want you to fill this out. And why isn't this team working together? No, they think like a human being again on the outside.
Yeah.
And to me, that starts at the top. At the top. You know, that's the culture that's created. And,
exactly.
And the person that's in charge, they're the ones that's responsible for creating the culture for that organization. And I love what, you know, you said, Asha, is that these individuals, they embrace people for what they bring to the table. And instead of suppressing them and trying to control them, they elevate them and allow them to bloom. Because if they succeed, they're going to look better and they're going to succeed.
And it starts the day you bring them on board.
Mhm.
Yes.
You know, when I had my staffing firm, one of the first things I did with everybody, and of course I qualified everybody through a variety of ways, but one of which was through a personality profile that was over 90% predictive of success on the job. So I knew these people pretty much inside and out before I hired them, but I sat every one of them down when they were hired and said, you were hired because of who you are and what you bring to this position. And you're the right person for this job. But guess what? Every other person in our company was hired for the same reasons. They were all hired because of who they are and what they bring, the strengths that they bring to the job.
Yeah.
And I had a company that was mostly women. And some of you may know that sometimes in the workplace, there's some conflict amongst women. I think because we've adopted that trying to compete in a masculine world. Anyway, we didn't have that. I had a company of all women, and we did not have that kind of conflict because they all knew from the get-go that every person there was to be respected and treated, for who they were and what they brought to the company, and that they were each unique but brought great strengths to the company. So you're right. It starts with the leader. It starts at the top.
And clearly, in that example, though, Regina, that was down to you and your leadership. And I can well believe that your style of leadership bore fruit in that kind of way, without a doubt. One of the things I'm wondering here is that, Asha, I'm really pleased that you get to work with such good leaders. Why are there so many people in business who aren't good leaders? What's the cause for that?
You know what? If you're asking me, I think it's ego and being a bottleneck in your own business, in your own growth. Because if you're humble, like look at all these multi-billionaires, they not showing off. They don't need to, right? They don't have to have all the brand names tattooed on their forehead to really show, hey, I have a status. I am someone, right? No, they don't. So that's the silent leader. Yeah, it's absolute. But I just want to say very modestly that like attract like. So,
if I can add on to that, because to me, it's where that perception of their self-interest is more important than the people that they are trying to lead and the organization.
And the organization.
And bring up, They usually hold people down. They don't bring people up with them. So that's unfortunate.
But it's such a short-sighted, because then their business, their clientele is not growing, is not being serviced at the highest level, right? So it's there's no way to grow, no way to scale. But that's where they actually still stuck in the quadrant of sole proprietor, and they don't really see it, right? I have one more thing to say, but if you have another question about leadership, I want to keep it for that.
And Mike has something to add to this.
No, I couldn't agree more with what you're talking about. I think it's driven by the fact that the leader is thinking nobody could do it as well as me, because it's their head, it's their mentality, it's their idea. And the truth is, leadership is a network of how it should trickle down. So imagine a power plant for a city or town. That's the leader. And then it goes back to these distribution points, and that's management. And then plugging it in to run your blender, that's the team. And they need but they should, every single leader should go through this exercise first. Get out a whiteboard or an easel and write what you know and what you don't know. And then fill in the blanks on what you don't know with the right people around you. And you'll never feel like you have to lead.
The only caveat to that is that you have people that don't know what they don't know.
Oh, yeah.
And they don't want to learn.
That's it. They don't want to learn, and they don't want to know. Ostrich syndrome.
Ostrich syndrome.
It's true.
I just spoke to a utopian Edenic situation. It's never actually like that, but that's ultimately the rigor that a leader should have to go through, so they can, if you were at the top, think of standing on the top floor of a building looking down, you can see everything. So of course you're going to be making decisions and saying, no, we should do this, we should do that, without thinking about the fact that the people below you can actually bring that value. And that's what I see the problem in leadership is.
Yeah, when I coached high school for a little while, and one of the things that I learned, I was responsible for helping with some of the recruiting, and I would have to meet with the college scouts when they would come out, and I would ask them, because I wanted to know, one particular, if they're coming out to look at a player, I want to know what they're specifically looking for, and because they develop that eye for what they want and what they expect to have on the team, but the thing that I learned most from them, and it changed the way that I approached my coaching and other things from that standpoint when I started having employees and those types of scenarios, is that they didn't look at that player for where they were at. They looked at that player for where their potential was, where they could get them to.
Yes.
And it's very much, it should be the same thing in business. When you hire somebody, you're hiring somebody with a potential to say, okay, this is somebody I can take, I can develop and make them grow. And if they grow, the business is going to grow.
Yes.
Yeah.
100%.
I had a job a little while back where, okay, we're going to give you control, and it's like a, marketing director role. And then immediately started telling me what to do and what projects he wants me to work on. And then 3 months later said, you're too reactive.
Couldn't imagine why.
That's the category that I don't call that leadership. I call that management. And then there's a category of management that's called micro.
Yeah, micro. Yeah, for sure.
Well, let's move on to my third question before we got about another 15 minutes, and then we may get kicked off of this thing. So, but my
welcome
last
to episode one.
Yeah. So my last question is that when it comes to problem solving, what is a unique problem that you deal with, and what is your approach to problem solving, either in that scenario or in general?
I'm going to actually be quiet and let someone else answer this one.
No way.
Ian looks like he's ready.
Yeah, this is a really interesting one, because this is a bit that I actually really quite enjoy in business from a personal perspective. Analysis, sitting and listening. Just listen and understand what it is that we're faced with. And then once that analysis piece is done, it's then facilitating and enabling a solution, whether that's human, technological, process, whatever it is. But for me, the approach is very much about sitting down and understanding, getting that really clear picture, having it broken down, and then thinking, what's the solution? And I'd be very much a solver. Problem solving in like relationships, husband and wife. A husband invariably wants to listen to the wife and then just solve things. Yeah.
I don't know what you're talking about.
That's how I've managed to stay single this whole time. Just kidding.
That reminds me of a video I saw not too long ago, and this woman's just talking about this piercing pain that she just has, and it pans around, and she has a nail in her forehead, and her husband is looking at her. He goes, maybe it's just the nail, and she's like, it's not about the nail. Just listen.
And it's really important that difference between men and women, because men have to solve the problem.
Mm-hmm.
And
so
women
that's why I put
just
my kind of
need
hand
to
up
talk
there.
it out. To solve it, we need to get it out of us and talk about it. And we're just looking for an audience for that. We don't want you to solve our problems. We want to solve them. But we need you to be that sounding board. Say that again, Mike.
I'm going to give you my wife's phone number.
All right, send her my way. Send her my way. But it's so true. And that's a lot of the reason for conflict in marriages a lot of times is because when a woman tells the man her problem, he thinks that she needs him to solve it. Mm-hmm. And he attempts that, and that you know,
But she does, doesn't she?
the flags go up. Right?
I saw, Kian, I saw a picture of a utility truck or a repair truck in the UK that said, "We repair what your husband fixed."
What a good name.
Love
Is
that.
that a $1 billion company now?
That's hilarious.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
I think for me, problem solving in my business, a couple of things. One is I love the team approach and being able to collaborate on things if I have a team that I can work with on that, and really consultative and collaborative. My staffing business, we would quarterly have retreats for, you know, the senior people in the staff company and, you know, we always had a full docket of things to cover for a couple of days. For myself, at times when I've been a solopreneur, one of the things that I need to do for me is find a quiet space where there's nobody else around. So sometimes that means get out of my house, get out of an office, wherever you're at, go leave that. So one of the quiet places I have found is the library, and go to the library, and they've got little rooms you can take that are meant for students or whatever. And I take my flip chart and my markers with me. And I plaster the walls with flip chart pages and getting everything out of my head and onto the wall. And I get inspired as I'm doing that. I start to see solutions that I couldn't see before. And that's been a huge beneficial tool for me in terms of solving problems and creating direction.
How long have you been doing that, Regina?
Oh, as long as I can remember.
Oh, cool. That's probably why we call you the queen then. That makes sense.
You know,
you
when
have
I
figured out the system to relieve and release.
I did a lot of that in the group as well with the board. I mean, it wasn't a board, it was my senior leaders. But we would go into the boardroom, and one of my offices was downtown Amarillo here in Texas. And we had a conference room there, and that flip chart got all over the walls there as well. I would literally bring in, you know, we'd have like a 2-day retreat, and I would bring in a ton of food and have a table set up with food the whole time. I said, you know, I'm going to work your brains. I know you're going to get hungry working your brain that much. Here's all the sustenance you need.
I want to work with you, Regina.
Yeah. Where do I sign up for the buffet?
Yeah.
I made sure they were well taken care of so that they could provide what we needed.
Sounds better than some other companies that are laying off 20,000 people this weekend.
Really.
So.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of that going on. I did a talk for a company back in January, and they asked me to come in and talk about goal setting and those types of things and resiliency. And then a couple weeks later, they did a massive layoff.
Is that your impact, Doc?
I didn't know that my talk on goal setting was going to result in that. It
had some big impact.
Yeah, massive.
Our goal is to lay off 3/4 of the workforce.
Yeah. I probably should have asked them what their goals were before I gave the talk.
Maybe. Make sure you're in alignment.
Before you put down the jug of water.
Yeah.
Oh man, that's good.
Asha, I'm glad you came back to us.
Yeah, what did I miss? Over a sudden, I stopped seeing everyone. I'm like, what happened?
I don't know.
It's interesting to hear you guys talk about what you do from your perspective. I'm the only one on this call who is somewhat transactional. Like, my relationships may last as little as 3 weeks.
Mm.
So I need to figure out a way to leverage my process from the get-go. Meaning, somebody sets up a call with me. My job is to disrupt and influence. Then they start to think. Then they say, wait a second. They walk away from me. They're like, I can't apply what he just said on my own because the second I left him, I forgot it. It happens to all of us. Mm-hmm. So then they come back, and my job at that point is to get them focused on my process and how we go about it. And we pick out what's important from everything that they see. So my approach is I ask them what they do. and I immediately give them an insight on their audience and a different way to connect with them. And they say, how did you do that? And I say, while you were talking, I was listening for specific words. We just did this today on another call. 50-year-old woman living in LA, dancer, former dancer, took some time off, wants to get on Broadway, jazz show Broadway. That's her goal. That's what she said to me. And she said, well, how would you position her as different from everybody else? And I said, well, I would say it's returning elegance to Broadway.
In LA.
She's moving to New York.
Oh, New York. Okay.
So, yeah. Bring the elegance of the past back to the Broadway of the now. And she said, how did you do that? I said, you gave me 3 pieces. You'll appreciate this. 3 pieces of information. 1, her vision. 2, how old she is. And 3, I could discern what her competition is without having to think about it. So she has to set herself apart from a bunch of 20-year-olds who know the now. And she can come in as this elegant, hair flowing, like, see what I can do and what I kept in this world. That's all it takes is listening for the right thing.
Listening, an important skill.
But
if every leader.
So,
if you listen
Mike,
to everything, you're in trouble, Regina. It's finding just those pieces that matter.
yeah.
Agreed.
Now, Mike, this could be an interesting implementation or a test for you, an ABC test. Do a 5-minute standard Loom video or a YouTube video that's pre-canned, okay? And it has Mike, the brand, the opportunity. Here's my vetting process. After you watch my 5-minute video, here's my form to meet with me. If you can't do this and you can't qualify for that, you ain't meeting with me.
I'm going to send
This is how this
works.
works to meet with me right now. You aren't meeting with me if you don't do this and this and this.
Right.
Because I'm making your life easier by bringing the barrier down to get into a bank than you walking into your own and getting embarrassed and laughed out right now. This is me in the nicest way possibly saying that, because I've experienced it as a business owner and many other doing the VC fundraising equity partner like Mike and getting very embarrassed and having to pick that up and show up as a leader and say, here's the value, here's why I'm here, here's what I'm doing, you know, and you're positioning that to a degree. I have to deal with that all the time. It's, as Mike, like, I get 50 introductions a day. Only 2 of them get to talk to me.
Yeah.
It's a vetting process.
It is.
You have to, because of what we do and the level we do it. It's the 2% we work with. It's not the 98, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad I managed to get on this today, so I could just get to talk to you a little bit, Michael.
That's why we're here. But yeah, I'm my age, but imagine it's hard to describe as I was building this finance thing and the amount of qualification and value and trust and relationship building to even get a handshake and stay in the conference room with their board. Tough stuff at 30 years old when these guys make billions and you're trying to come in their Noah's Ark in a way and say, I'm actually going to help you load all the animals onto your ark for you. Oh, by the way, did you see it from that side? Because they're all standing out there in the grass right now. They don't know where the on-ramp is. So, you know, little things like that, you had to come in very subliminally and not pick up energy, not rock this, not rock him or her, and make sure everybody's on a level playing field so you get what you need at the end of the day, which
I think that's, Michael, I take that exact same approach.
I would imagine.
Somebody sets up a meeting with me, the first thing they need to do is watch my lead magnet, but I did a 22-minute video on my step-by-step, my methodology of how to build your pitch from the ground floor up. And that is like a prerequisite that I try to push on people so that when they come in the conversation, they've got some context already.
They're ready to go in a way.
Plus,
Yeah, pre-vetted themselves. Yeah.
And I got their email and they're in my newsletter and blah, blah, blah.
Love it.
Genius.
Asha,
Well,
what's your...
Yeah, I mean, 2 things. I think that's very good because we all want to, our time is valuable. So we do want to work with ideal clients, right? But we have to know who the ideal client is, number one. Number two, set clear expectations, verbalize that very clearly, and then execute on that, right? Stay with integrity and keep it really congruent and not just be wishy-washy, because that's exactly who we want to attract otherwise. Before I accidentally left, you asked the question, what about our problem solving, or what exactly? And you know what I noticed after so many years working in business, on my own businesses and with multiple clients, that actually when people come to you, they come to you not with a problem wanting solution. They come to you with symptoms. And majority of helpers, everyone else, doctors even, right? They always will give you a perfect pill to fix the symptom. But it's not going to fix anyone. And you do have a patient for life. Voila, you just have a successful business. No, that's not going to work this way, because you still deal with sick patients. So what I've learned, and I think some of my clients are calling me like Polish Sherlock Holmes. Yes, this accent is not from Texas either, or UK. Surprise, surprise.
I couldn't work it out.
It sounds different than
know.
Regina's.
Yes, I'm saying
Yeah.
surprise, surprise. I always say it's from Texas. And people are like, oh, yes. But
East Texas. Yeah.
yeah.
There's some Creole mix in from Florida.
Yeah, all the up here window
I thought
in
it was
this meeting.
I thought it was a really thick
Oh,
New
man.
Jersey accent.
Yeah, but you know what? It's so some of my clients, they call me Polish Sherlock Holmes only because I bypass the symptom and I want to get to the core. What really is okay? Asha, our employees are not engaged. Our clients are not engaged. Very simple question, a very simple symptom, right? So yeah, we can get some nutritions sprinkled away and some vending machines, and that's not going to help. But that's exactly what the first solution to fix the symptom is. Well, what I was keeping secret from you before I left was one of the fun things that no one wants to acknowledge and work with. So do you guys remember the book 5 Languages of Love? That was for friendships and romantic relationships and whatnot. It's another book by the same author. It's in a workplace. And I highly recommend that. So many times it's all about appreciation and showing your appreciation to your clients, to your brilliant team members. And that's, I think, the next level of leadership. Take the time to recognize, appreciate, and really make them significant. Because only then you can empower your team members, your employees, your clients to do what you really want them to do, using their own ways to do so. So what I want to say, never just stop at symptoms, right? Always get to the core. That's not easy, but that's the whole fun.
It's like differential diagnosis.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I think a lot of that too is also setting the standard from the get-go. And when you bring people in saying, look, this is the standard of excellence that I expect us to operate at in everything that we do. And as far as the way we approach things, this is the standard that we live by. And you tell them from the get-go, either we live by this standard or you don't live here. It's just that simple.
Yeah, you can't reach the bar.
Yep.
You're out.
Yeah.
But you know what? One more thing to add to it. As leaders, we can't just say that. We have to live by it, right? So we have to be role models, giving our followers or who else great examples. If
Live
we
by
don't,
example.
Yep.
exactly. If we don't, it's just not going to work.
No.
Well, then you fall into the category of do as I say, not as I do. And
That's right.
and if
Yeah.
you're trying to build, as Kian referenced, if you're trying to build trust, among the people that you're expecting to help grow your business and help you reach your goals, no, that's not the way to get there.
It's
Yeah.
not you're not creating good leaders.
Mhm.
No.
You're
And-
not delegating and empowering.
Yeah.
Not at all. And in the end of the day, it's all about, we want to do business with people we know, like, and trust, but it's all about our reputation. What type of reputation, who would you like to be in the eyes of your family, team members, your clients?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I explain it as
Clarity.
I explain it as what taste do you want to leave in their mouth.
Very good.
And I've heard that,
Oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry. The thing is, I've heard people that have been in positions of leadership. I'm talking about at the top that they justify micromanagement because their name is the one that's stamped on it.
Yeah.
And in my response, of course, this doesn't endear me to people like this, but but my response is that, well, one of two things needs to happen. Either you need to hire better people, or you need to change your perspective.
Yeah.
Get out of your own way.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mhm.
Stop being
So
a
many
bottleneck
times,
for our own business.
Yeah.
But sometimes though, when you come up against that kind of personality, telling them straight like that just gets their back up, and you're not actually going to be able to overcome that easily. And so it's understanding that person and then working around it to educate them and then get them to collaborate with you over a period of time so that they see it for themselves and then take action. And the reason I can say that is I was that numpty many years ago. I was the one with the ego, and I'm the one who thought I was in control of everything. And it was a rude awakening. And at the same time, it was one of the best things that ever happened to me because it changed my perspective completely and utterly. And it took
Now
time,
you can lead by example.
But if one had told me that when I was in my late 20s and I'm flying high, I wasn't going to listen.
You weren't
Not a
hearing
chance. No.
And so
no
many
way.
times as leaders, we delegate responsibility, but we do not give the authority with it.
Yeah,
That's a
indeed.
huge
Boy, that's
challenge for any
I will
organization.
even
Yeah.
add, Regina, we don't give authority, but also trust, belief, and necessary tools and training.
Yes,
Well
all
said.
that
All
goes
of
with it.
that,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
Because that's all, it's a part of it.
I think the biggest issue that
And that's
see
the
is-
old paradigm to the new paradigm that I think is shifting, or we're seeing it at this moment.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
Well said.
100%.
the way I sum up that issue is go back to my book and blurb example. The leader wrote the book. If somebody handed him the blurb, think of a blurb. It's 3 paragraphs that leads you down a story, right? That makes you want to buy the book. If he's just operating on those 3 tenets and it's able to disseminate down to everyone, it's much easier to do. He's got to forget everything he wrote and distill it down to what he can lead effectively with. He or she.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I mean, it's interesting. One of the things that about leadership that influenced me was a few years ago watching The Cowboy Way. I didn't realize I was going to be moving to America back then, but I started watching it.
So
And,
wait a second. That's the movie you chose to watch?
Oh no, it was the series. So it was the 3 cowboys, and yeah,
Of course.
I loved it. But do you know what? There was so much that I learned from that, and then I read Cody Harris's book, The Cowboy Way. If more leaders could take some advice from these cowboys, I think it would be great. Their word is their bond. They're men of integrity and honesty, or women, and I think we need more leaders like that.
Yes. Yes, I agree.
Well,
Imagine the power of their workforce, their brand, and their customer reaction when that bleeds through with light.
Definitely.
My goodness. Watch
Yeah.
out.
I worked with a plant-based cafe. There's one in DC. He owns one in DC, one in Virginia Beach. And what I pointed out to him was there are a bunch of plant-based cafes. It's a product for people. And I explained to him, he said, well, this is what we have to do. I mean, we have to explain our story of farm to table and how we started up. I said, no, you don't. I don't care about that if I'm walking into your establishment. I said, what you need to do is stand out from all the other plant-based cafes. And then, simple truth, vegan lifestyle, let's say. A lot fewer choices than everybody else, so it's harder to stay on your path. Now, this organization or this location, excuse me, is called Fruitive, like IVE at the end of the word fruit. I said, that needs to mean something. He said, well, how do we make it mean something? I said, well, how about find your fruitivation, fruitivate your lifestyle, give it some ownership so that if they go to another plant-based cafe, that cafe is just saying, come on in and eat our food. They're like, no, I got to find my fruitivation. That's how a brand seeps in. You know,
Love
you
it.
start to attach it to a meaning that's beyond the product, beyond the service.
That's awesome. Think of the IV as the IV as healthy system. It's rebooting your system and reducing all the. I could play with that one all day.
Nice. Nice. Michael's just getting into the zone now.
Yeah.
Don't turn on the noggin. It'll not stop.
That's why I love every.
I'll be emailing y'all at midnight. Be like, hey, I got an amazing idea. You want to be my partner?
Yeah.
All right.
I'll
Well,
give you a great, just very quickly, I'll give you a quick analogy or story about the importance of that simplicity and how to lead the right way. It has a lot to do with that. We had to make more monopolies. We had to sell more monopolies when I worked at Hasbro. Monopoly, you buy once for $15, you keep it for 20 years, you replace the thimble with a real thimble. That's what we do, not frequency, not luxury. So our insights department went out and spent $30,000 on quantitative, qualitative focus groups, blah, blah, blah. Came back with 6 insights. We're like, this is going to bring us in 6 different directions. An associate brand manager on Monopoly found a BuzzFeed poll that said 50% of people cheat when they play Monopoly. Exactly. So we hooked on to that idea. Kate, the director on the business, gets in front of the C-suite, the whole amphitheater of 60 stakeholders and upper levels from all over the world. She puts a screen grab of that poll. This is 3 slides for this, okay? She puts a screen grab of that. 50% of people cheat when they play Monopoly. For 5 minutes, no exaggeration, every single person right up to the CEO talked about either cheating or catching someone cheating. The next slide we introduced was Cheaters Edition Monopoly.
hey, that's a good idea.
That's simple. It's that simple, and it has to be that dumbed down, but it works.
Yeah.
And the stock price went up 40%. That's awesome.
All right. Well, let's close. I think that we could be able to continue to talk for the next 2 hours, and we'd have to get some pizza and margaritas in here. But so this is what I want to
have
do.
one question to everyone. I'm not sure if we have time for that. Few minutes. Do we?
We got as much time as we want. It's episode 1.
Yeah.
We're setting the precedent.
All right, fantastic. So
Sorry, I brought you a ruly group, Davis.
Yeah.
we
Hey,
made
Unruly.
we made the
this is going to be a
decision
hard standard to you know,
to
meet
follow.
from this point on.
By
That
the way,
right.
I completely understand the reason why we're 20 minutes over is because of me. So, know thyself.
Yeah. It's going to be
Go ahead,
all your
Asha.
fault. So that's fantastic. So I have last question for all of us, but it has to be a quick answer. So under a minute.
Can we
for
mute
some
Mike
people.
then?
I know. I'm saying under a minute for some people, especially under 30 seconds for a few others.
The M&M.
So I would love to know, guys, can you share with us what was one of the either biggest challenges that you overcame in leadership, or maybe one of your favorite challenges that you love to overcome in leadership? And go.
I would say mine was getting out of my own way.
Mm.
Yeah. Learning to get out of my own way, get out of my own head, and focus on the bigger picture and get myself out of it
Yeah.
and not make it about me.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say getting out of getting the confidence so that you don't feel like you're in that imposter syndrome. You know, I mean, to start your own business and when you've not done it before and you've got no training in it and you just jump out there. And I can remember my husband saying, "Why didn't you tell me you were going to do this?" Oh,
Yeah.
well, honey, I just started this business.
Sorry I didn't bring it up over dinner last night.
Yeah, really. Actually, I have to remember we were driving down the road. What?
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, yes.
Beautiful, Regina. Yeah, that's so true.
Mine was learning the power of collaboration. I learned it the hard way, but it was transformative, absolutely transformative.
I had to pour so much self-love and self-trust into starting this finance thing because I'm 35 starting commercial finance company. So people look at you a little differently. So I had to have extreme trust in myself, a lot of love, because I knew that's what people would be feeling and sharing in the experience of working with me.
Mm. Beautiful.
I would say for me, it's
I thought we ran out of time then.
You two are going to be fast friends, I can see.
I gotta tell you, I don't know many finance guys who have your personality. It's pretty funny.
Fast friends or fast enemies?
Especially accountants.
That's what I should have said. You're right. No, for me, it's undervaluing what I do and what I can do. I don't see it the same way that other people see it. And I tend to just, think, oh, well, this is probably what they'd want to pay for it, as opposed to really being able to define. I mean, I believe what I do would be worth a hell of a lot more than what I charge, put it that way. But it's a belief thing. It's a self-belief thing.
Yeah.
It's like what you said, Michael.
Yeah.
I had to, because I was like, I'm going to be touching 1 million, 1 billion, 100, maybe 1 trillion at some point. This last month, I'm quoting more than the state of Washington. It's like if Amazon, Microsoft, and Boeing all showed up on the same week. Leadership times 10 for me, because I'm an introvert. I'm a very self-judging person on myself, and I have to show up with existential value to even walk out of the door in the morning. So
What a great challenge to have, Michael.
you got to put on the cape or else someone's going to take it.
But Michael, I've noticed that especially introverts are one of the top best leaders and actually speakers as well, or keynote speakers, because they have to be very methodical and they have to be very strategic as well to preserve their energy and
I give so much energy and people have no idea. It's
Yeah.
insane.
yeah,
But the
it's for
other
you to
thing-
double, right?
Yeah,
The other
or
thing
10
that
times 10. So yeah.
Michael, I've seen you.
I'm trying to acquire something that these people have never even thought of or sat with the feeling of getting $1 million, 10 million, $100 million. I'm like, do you realize what you're asking for? Have you actually sat and resonated with that? Because if you haven't, you're not going to touch it. If you have, I can work with you and we can go down this road.
I just want to make sure.
Transactional to that degree.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that anybody that hears this, after this, that they heard what she said, that introverts make really great keynote speakers. And,
Yes.
What she
Yes.
didn't add though was so do accountants with a sense of humor.
There you go.
And
No,
an
I
accent.
didn't say that.
And an
No,
accent.
Yeah, completely not. I would never say. Yeah, especially those that are taught by me. So.
I'm
But-
already thinking of people that you guys would be entertained talking with. Like Rian, I know an accountant who's hyper introverted, and every time he comes on Zoom, he's wearing a Hawaiian shirt. That's like his thing. And you talk to him, and his personality's as big as the shirt. But people make these presuppositions. Davis, yesterday, I met a former Army Ranger sniper who had the most bananas story. But he focuses on leadership and building sort of that SEAL Team 6 approach for businesses. I'm going to introduce you to those two people. Well, not both of you, but I'll make the introduction because this is the kind of stuff I love anyway.
Yeah.
It's just having these types of conversations and see where it goes.
It's funny because most of my close friends and really good friends, they're all former special operators.
Yeah.
So we tend to hit it off right away. So
this guy got shot 3 times, which is amazing. But what happened to the guy who shot him, I'll tell you in a one-to-one conversation.
Story for another day.
So let me answer my question and wrap up this episode. Davis, you're welcome. You know, I know it will take forever. So, you know, another thing that I love to also challenge myself and other leaders too. I think Regina was talking about trusting ourselves too. Trusting ourselves. And I had to learn how to be patient with some of the clients, especially that are very strong leaders, very stubborn, and usually get to, get everything they wanted, how they wanted. But they were not open enough to see that they were the bottleneck of the company. Right. So I had to actually learn patience and not having my volcano erupting like right there, because that could exactly happen. I had to have a patience to stood my ground and say, this is exactly what we need to do. And, if you don't want to, this is your choice. Let's look at the results that you're going to face, the consequences. And guess what? After a few months, they were back on track, calling and saying, okay, I thought, okay, maybe I shouldn't say that. Maybe I was too tough. Maybe, I was questioning myself, but I'm now be patient. That's exactly what needs to happen for their best interests, their highest good.
Yeah.
Okay. So Asha, how are you doing? So when are we starting working together? You know what I mean? So it's just sometimes patience to let our clients, leaders get out of their own way. We cannot help them with it. We have to be patient and allow them to come back to us.
Yeah, very good.
Absolutely. Well, I want to thank all of you for coming on. This has been awesome. Again, the standard has been set. The bar has been set. And I firmly believe that this conversation could keep going and going and going. So
we see you in next week, right? Sometime.
So too.
Wait a second.
We can just do the whole series and then wait for other people next series.
In 2026.
Yeah.
Poor Doc.
Actually, I thought this was therapy. That's why I showed up.
Group session.
Yeah. I was going to say that's next hour.
That's when the margaritas come out.
Yeah.
Next to the margaritas, you mean? Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So what I want everybody to do is take about 10 seconds. Tell us how we can best get a hold of you, and so that we can go see all about you and what you offer, and they can reach out to you. Asha, we can start with you.
Oh, go ahead.
Accelerated.
I'm going in the order on my screen.
I'm sorry, I had to. All right. So I would love you guys to connect with me on LinkedIn. First of all, Asha Mańkowska. And go to my website, acceleratedprofitsmasters.com. I almost forgot for a second. Thank you so much for having me. That was absolute pleasure.
Yeah, thank you for coming on. Mike, you're up next.
Search Mike Barrett, this name, and it's the one that says I can pitch your business better than you.
Okay.
Easiest way to find me. I don't have a website per se. I put the link to my video in the chat though.
Yeah. Right. Kian?
Yep, you can find me, Kian Frith, on LinkedIn. If you search Kian Frith, I don't think you're going to find any others. So you'll see me and my smiley face. The business is kvimpact.com. So that's kvimpact.com. And so if you want to take your business to a whole nother level, you need to speak to me.
And Michael?
Yeah, just Google my name or Google Noggin Finance and connect with me on LinkedIn. We've got quite the community we're managing.
I can attest to that.
Thank you, sir.
And then my co-host, Regina.
So you can find me on LinkedIn as Regina Partain Bergman. My website is bridgeportstrategy.com. And you can reach me via email at regina@bridgeportstrategy.com.
You're going to have to change your email to Queen Regina.
Queen Regina.
Yeah, I'll grab that for you this weekend.
Okay.
Yourmajesty.com.
Hermajesty.com.
And I'm your host, Dr. Davis McAllister. You can reach me at drdavismcallister.com, or you can reach me by email on info@drdavismcallister.com. You can find me on LinkedIn, Facebook, and now YouTube. So thank you all for coming on, and I hope everybody enjoyed it and tune in next time.
Thank you, Dr. Davis.
Awesome.
Thank you,
Great.
Dr.
So much.